Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Beyond the Sun from Rio Grande Games. Beyond the Sun is a 2 to 4 player game, otherwise known as Tech Tree the board game, and it's a game which, shockingly enough, tech trees are a big part of it. The game has this giant board over here in which you're going to be slowly unlocking more and more technologies. You can go ahead and discover technologies that are on the board, or you can find them and unlock them, and other players will then have access to getting into those technologies themselves. Alternatively, you also have a little sideboard with a little bit of an area control puzzle going on as you move your ships around the galaxy, trying to colonize various systems in the game in order to get the benefits, the points they provide, and all of that in the game. That's the two things that you're trying to operate here. A little bit of worker placement, kind of worker placement. You have a single worker, an action pawn, that every single round you're going to be placing that action pawn down on a location on one of the various spots that are either on the open basic spacefaring spot over here, or alternatively on some of the locations. Once you have access to that technology, you can take those worker placement spots as well, and those will all lend themselves towards unlocking new technologies, gathering resources, improving your tableau, or managing and improving your space combat and colonizing the various areas of the board. That's the basic idea of the game. The gameplay, the sequence is going to involve you taking your piece, your pawn. In fact, I'm blue over here, so let's take my piece over here, let's put it on the board, and you choose one of these spots on the board. At the beginning of the game, that's going to have to be one of the basic spacefaring spots, but you go ahead over here, and that allows me to take one of my people and put them onto a basic level 1 tech. That's going to be these 4 techs that are already on the board. Players can see them, and I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and unlock, let's do advanced robotics over here. So I'm going to go to advanced robotics, which automatically, this has an immediate effect. Many of the technologies in the game have an immediate effect that you get when you unlock that technology for the first time. Past that, there are also worker placement spots, which you can only go to if you have that technology unlocked. So over here, this advanced robotics card over here has the immediate effect that I can I can automate 1 gear over there, and I can gain 1 resource. So I'm going to go ahead and do so, which means I'll take this gear over here, and I'll put it onto the automation track, where it's going to be worth points as we go through the game, but also it's going to slowly unlock various spots, and as you uncover various spots, you'll be getting more and more resources every single turn in the upkeep. From there, I'm also going to go ahead and take 1 resource, which is going to be very helpful, because you're going to use those to alternatively build ships. I don't think I showed you this. So here, as we unlock these, you'll have these spots that will unlock, and then we have the resource over there, which can be used towards building ships, towards unlocking more technologies, and all of that. That's going to be your action. You're going to take your action, you'll go ahead and do that. And then you'll go ahead and produce. Following this little handy-dandy player aid, you're going to go ahead and do production, where you can either do population growth or production or trading resources. In general over here, I'm going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and grab a person. I find people early game can be a little hard to get, so I'm going to take one of these cubes and I'm going to rotate it to its person side so that I now have an extra person in play. Last thing you can do on your turn is you can claim an achievement, but that's going to be hard to do early game. Achievements are really an end game thing. In fact, they are the trigger for the end game once enough achievements have been claimed, depending on your player count. But over here, there are going to be 2 standard cards that are in every single game. Researching your first level 4 tech, that's going to be these over here, and once you do so, you'll get 4, 3, 2, or 1 points, depending if you're first, second, or third, or fourth. Or alternatively, colonizing 4 systems, that will also be the other standard ability. Then past that, you're going to draw cards from the A and B deck, and you're going to have these cards that give you variable goals to go for. In this case, researching all 6 level 2 techs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The first person to do that will get 3 points, and in a 4-player game, someone else can go there as well. And then we have the strategist over here, who has at least 8 ore plus 4 spaceships plus 4 over there in the game at the end of a turn. So that's going to be the goals over here. So on your turn, you take your worker, your pawn, you place it down somewhere, and then you do production, and then you claim an achievement if you're able to do so. On your next turn, you have to move your pawn to a new spot, that is. You can be on the same spot on the same card, which will also be applied over here. For example, this card over here has 2 worker placement spots, and you could go to either one on the same card, but you cannot do the basic spacefaring, you cannot do the same exact action in the same exact row. So for over here, because I only have 1 resource, I can't really do much as far as what my options are. In fact, I probably should have taken the extra. Well, it's unfortunate. It is what it is. We're going to go ahead and do this action down here, where any number of players can go, where I can go ahead and convert one of these to a person, and then I'm going to go ahead and gain a resource. Not the most efficient action. I did not plan my turns accordingly. Unfortunately, I should have gotten the resource. It would have been better for me. I'm going to put that down there. We're going to go ahead and take another action, and then I'm going to head back to over here, and then at the end of my turn, I'm going to gain an ore again this time, because I'm going to go ahead and gain my resources, and then I'll go to this action over here, which involves spending 2 ore to unlock a level 2 tech. Now, this is where you have to have access to the tree that is progressing throughout the course of the game. Whenever you unlock techs, you have to have access to prior techs, which sometimes is as simple as chaining into one, and other times you have to chain from multiple. To unlock this tech over here, you have to be coming from both here and here. It's not either or, it's in both. And each track is going to tell you where you're going to follow the lines and see where you have to get access to. But in my case, by unlocking level 2 tech, I can do this one. Actually, I can't do this one. This one requires both of these tracks. I can do this one or this one. Let's go ahead and do, well, I can't do this one, it's level 3. Let's go ahead and unlock this tech over here, which means we're going to go ahead and read this card, and these cards represent various events in the game. There can be various events that give you things like, putting extra military might into the board, getting access to free level 1 techs. There can be a variety of events, and the person to unlock this does have the agency over making any choices that show up on this event, so go ahead and resolve that event. I'm not going to go through the events, they're all different. Tuck a card onto here, unlock this, extra points for that. There's all these different events that will be there, the level 2 and the level 3 events, and there's a nice pool. We're not using all of them. There's a nice pool of available events off to the side. From there, you'll go ahead and let's go ahead and find, we're going to go ahead, because this is a blue technology, we have to unlock a blue technology. So we're going to go ahead and just draw cards until we have 2. Let's draw the other way so we can actually see these over here. Yeah, it's got to be like this over here. So we're going to draw cards until we have 2 blue technologies we can reference. So here's one, and then we can keep going from here. We can go another one, another one, another one, keep going until we get 2 blue. Here we go. So now we have 2 blue technologies, and then from there we're going to choose which one. Whenever you have a technology coming from different colors, which can happen whenever you need both, then you get to choose which of the colors you want and then draw until you have 2 of those. I'm going to go ahead and look at these colors, which means by being the person to unlock a new tech, you both have a choice over the event, and you have a choice over which technology is actually going to enter play, and from there, I can either do Exo Ally Refinement or Space-Time Anomaly Studios, and I think this one's going to allow me to unlock more level 2 while also being, because of the fact that we have an event in play that wants me to have all level 2 spots, and this one lets me move ships around the board and then also gain a level 2 spot, I'm going to choose that one. I'm going to tuck this into the board, and then I'm going to place my person onto that spot, and I'm the only one with access to it. Now, other players playing the game can go ahead and do the same thing. They can go ahead and explore the same technologies, so they can take one of their things and put it down the exact same pathway, and they could go ahead and build access to the same pathway of technologies that you are unlocking, but you'll be the one who gets there first, you'll be the one that has a choice, and you'll have control over the event. So leading the charge does give you a degree of control over the game state, and how the board will develop in general. Past that, you're doing all these things over here to manage your resources, to get new technologies. Unlocking new techs will slowly unlock new things, so you have new access to level 3s, level 4s. You're going to slowly unlock these cards over here, where you can slowly take off these, unlocking new basic spots, which include the Meta Science Guild, where you can go ahead and given 6 resources and put 2 people back in the supply in order to unlock a level 4 tech. So you're slowly going to be unlocking and improving these. In the meantime, there's a space combat. The space combat's going to be a little puzzle where as you move around the board to various planets, players, let's pretend it's my ship, I can go ahead and go over here, and I can take one of these off and put it on the planet as I temporarily control to the few planets on the board, so you can unlock your resources and your income more easily that way. But additionally, once you have various ships that are on planets, every planet card, let's show you a card over here, every planet card has a few things going on. There's which deck it comes from, the A or the B, A's being closer to the supply, and B's requiring a bit more distance to get to. But then they also have the various types of things that can go on, the types of symbols, how much strength is required to conquer it, how many points they have, and the ability it will give you either one time or ongoing when you actually colonize that planet. And so this particular planet requires 3 strength, so once I have a level 3 ship, or any combination thereof, you could also have, a level 2 ship and a level 1 ship, or in fact you could have 2 level 2 ships, but once you have enough strength equal to the planet's minimum requirement, and more than any other player there, so you have to have more than any other player there, you can take a colonize action once it's unlocked. They're not immediately on the board. The Terraforming Guild does have one that you can unlock once that's uncovered, but otherwise you'll have to find various technologies, and there are a whole bunch of them. They'll give you the access, and these technologies here, there's a bunch that will give you access to, let's try to find one, here we go. Android Survivors over here, let's pretend that's on the board over here. So you have this access to this area here where you can pay for resources and go ahead and colonize a planet, and so you can follow the, the immediate effect, the ongoing effects, all that. But then from there, you'll take the total power you need equal to the total number or greater. So if I have 2 2s, for example, I have to unfortunately give them both up, even though it's more than I need. These will go back to my supply over here. This will pop into deep space, and then I will take this planet, and it's now my planet, and I can take not only the symbol I already had in it, but I can go ahead and put another one onto it, so you're both getting more of your things off the board, which gives you more control over how much production you have. It's also giving you an ongoing ability, and it's giving you points all at the same time. And that is basically Beyond the Sun. You're going to go ahead every single turn, you're going to take an action. You're going to move your pawn to a new spot. You're going to pay the costs, if any. It has to be a spot you have access to. You're going to be doing that so you can build technologies in the game, so you can get access to technologies that already exist, or so you can explore and find new technologies. You're going to keep doing that until you eventually achieve endgame, until one player triggers endgame by having enough achievements in play, and then you're going to total up your score, the scores from all the technologies. Each technology has a score for having access to that. Various of the level 4 technologies often have very points on them, a lot of points on them that will give you different things, different points going in the game. You're going to score for your various colonies, for the achievements, and all of that, and that is Beyond the Sun. Which brings us to a review, starting off with ease of play. The rulebook on this is actually longer. The rulebook is longer and more complicated than I think the game itself actually takes to explain. I think the game itself is fairly easy to go through. It's taking an action, and I find the biggest thing people struggle with a bit is the separate little puzzle over here. You can teach this core game very simply, and the idea of how it plays out makes sense. You have to play through it to get a sense of strategy, but the core idea of, you unlock techs, you manage your supply, you manage your resources, you unlock more techs, rinse and repeat, that works well. And then you have to separately explain the area control puzzle, which is not that complicated, but initially feels a bit out of touch with what you just otherwise learned. Let's go ahead and lock that down with some stuff over here. But anyways, that's as far as the actual game. The game itself is fairly easy to teach, fairly easy to get people up and running. I do find the rulebook is very verbose, very long for the amount of game that's actually there. Game time can vary. Runs, I'd say 90 to 120, depending on the players at the table, how much time they're taking and all that, and the player count. But I'd say 90 to 120 for the game, typically. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, first of all, tech, tech, and tech. This game is affectionately nicknamed Tech Tree the board game, or at least I've seen that at least one time, so now I'm going to say on video that it's affectionately named Tech Tree the board game. It's not my own line, I did see it one time. But Tech Tree the board game is so named because you're constantly unlocking technologies that give you access to new locations, and it's very much about the puzzle of trying to find things that work well together. It's very much about finding what do you currently have access to on the board, which spots do you currently have control over, what are you trying to do, how much of your game is over here, how much of it is in the separate area control, how well is your board currently developed, and trying to find the various technologies as you unlock new things that give you that sense of agency. It's about puzzling together the sequence of, if you can only take one action a turn, what is the most efficient action by action by action that will give you the most points, give you the most resources, and give you the most control in the game. It is Tech Tree the board game. You just throw out different abilities and combinations of abilities, and then it's up to you to try to find and puzzle your way through that progression towards the thing that is the most rewarding for your engine. It is just, there's not a lot of things I like about the game. The main thing is the core idea. I like the game, to be very clear. It's just that there's not like a list of 7 different things I can go over. There's tech, tech, and more tech combined with more tech, and then ways to use that tech to go through that tech and utilize that tech so you have the most tech and you get the most achievements by having the best tech and the most tech in this tech-based game, Tech Tree the board game. I said tech a lot, more than you actually need to, but you get the general sense of it. It's all about those powers and abilities and the unlocking of powers and abilities that work well for your engine. And then the area control does give it a separate nice little puzzle to go over. I think the game would be a little bit too one-dimensional if it was just the board, as it is the one thing I do have a complaint about, which we'll get to shortly, is that it is a little bit one-dimensional, which can limit some of the effusiveness of some of the technologies in the game. But the area control gives you that nice separate puzzle to focus on as far as how you build up your technology, move to various spots, gather the planets, utilize their abilities, combine them with the tech you have, and then manage that together with the end game goals, and all together you have a nice solid puzzle that teaches pretty quickly, plays at a reasonable speed, and just gives you a completely variable puzzle to dive into and explore every single time you dive into and explore this game. As far as what I don't like about the game, kind of what I mentioned already, which is the game does have a limited scope. There's 2 things going on in this game. There's an area control puzzle and then a tech tree. And that means that despite the coolness of having giant stacks of tech, or not giant stacks, but stacks of technology that you can utilize and combine in all these different fun ways, despite the fact that you have that going on, because there's only so many ways that the game can interact with the limited stuff going on here, it means that there is a lack of variety to just how crazy or interesting things can get. Most of the technologies come down to some form of resource improvement, or alternatively, ways to colonize or upgrade your ships in their area control, or alternatively ways to unlock new technologies. Those are the core primary puzzles going on here, and they're all just different combinations of that. Now, don't get me wrong, I still love what the game is doing and how it does it, but because of the limited scope of how many things the game is trying to tackle, because it's Tech Tree the board game, a lot of the tech involves focusing on tech, and then the area control, and then the resources, and that's the trifecta of the puzzle you're going on here. So there's a limit to, if you told me, hey, we're going to give you 30 new cards to the game, or 50 new technologies, I don't know if I noticed the difference that strongly, because until they add another element to the game, there's a limit to just how interesting the technologies can all work together anyways. And so that's my one complaint. A game that's all about technologies and then less ways to actually implement and utilize those, thus limiting a bit of just how interesting the board can actually get. As far as what I can see others not liking, right now, in the current game state, I believe technology is more essential. I believe that you kind of have to focus on technology first and foremost, and then the area control is a separate puzzle that is a drop weaker. They actually have an expansion coming out to the game that I have not played that I believe in some way is meant to address that to a degree, to balance it out a bit more, or possibly add new things. I don't fully know what's going on there, but currently right now, tech is a stronger element in the game, and you really need to heavily focus on it. I mean, it is known as Tech Tree the board game, so there is that aspect, but you may not like that if it's all about the game, this puzzle. If you like leaning into the area control puzzle, that is something you do want to do in conjunction with your technology, but it's not the core focus of the game, not by a long shot. Additionally, earning some of the cubes over here can start to become a challenging puzzle to manage your spaceships, your supplies, your goods, and putting your people onto the board as scientists or whatnot. Managing your resource puzzle over here can get a little hard. These things over here coming in, whatever they're called, the minerals, rocks, whatever they are, that's a little easier, but your people get harder and harder to earn income from because of the nature of the way this supply track works, something I didn't heavily get into, but effectively, as you slowly decrease supply, it becomes harder and harder to actually earn people in the game. You need to have this ramped up more and more, and so there's an interesting puzzle going on here, but your people track is a bit harder to manage, and you could feel starved for those people as the game progresses if you haven't built your systems out appropriately. As far as final thoughts on Tech Tree the board game, I know it's called Beyond the Sun, but I want to keep saying Tech Tree the board game because it is what I like about the game. But as far as my final thoughts on Beyond the Sun, I really like what this game is doing, with that one limiting factor of the techs are not as interesting as I'd like because there's less interesting things to play with. But past that, I love what this game is. It's a game that's all about powers and abilities, and more than that, it's a game about powers and abilities that will have different combinations every single game, and it forces you as the player to re-examine what combination of I do this, then this, then this, then that will work best in my favor as I go through the game. There's all these tools at your disposal, but you have to choose when is it worth unlocking that tool, when do you want to go ahead and use that tool, when do you want to be focused on the area control versus the tech track, what are the current achievements in play and how are those going to modify the way you approach the strategy, what have other players unlocked or gotten to first that changes the way you approach the game. It is ultimately a game about powers and abilities that is highly variable and gives you a lot to consider while giving you a very clean rule set of what is actually going on here and how to approach it. It is only limited by that one factor to me where, because there's less going on, there's less interesting ways for the text to all synchronize, and ultimately it comes down to ways to unlock technologies, ways to affect area control, and then ways to manage your resources in the game. But overall for me, I still really like what this game is doing. It's very much my jam. It's a 4.5 out of 5. Exactly the kind of game I like. I just want like an extra element thrown in some expansion where that gives you a whole set of new cards, and then suddenly it's Tech Tree the board game with like 2 side puzzles going on, so there's more ways for everything to enmesh and merge together. And merge and mesh and mesh, merge together. In any case, that's basically final thoughts. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, if you like the idea of a worker placement puzzle with a degree of area control on the side, Endless Winter may well be your jam. If you want to see a progressive degree of unlocks in a worker placement puzzle, where you start with a certain set and then things slowly but surely you get more and more unlockable worker placement areas, then Caverna the Cave Farmers, or Agricola might be a game you'd enjoy. And then lastly, if you just generally like that kind of finding the pattern through a mess of tons of information, very much this game gives me strong vibes to Vindication in terms of how it's all about what you do with all the various factors in play in any given game at any given time. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.